Welcome to the Raw Experience with Chris, where honesty is at the forefront of every video.
What's cracking? I'm Chris, and we're back with the QidiTech Q2. I think I said that right. I'm Australian, so it's hard for me because we pronounce it Qidi. We'll go with that. QidiTech Q2, and we're going to go with a three-part episode series. Why is that? Because I'm sick and tired of seeing print reviews done by everyone on YouTube that only go for 10 to 15 minutes. To me, that's not good enough. We need to know more about what we're buying and whether it's worth our value for money, in truth, in honesty, and in depth, to find out if what we get is worth our bang for buck with reliability and quality control. Because we're going to go over not prints, but we're not going to go over first layer. We're going to go over just the machine itself, and I'm going to tell you some hidden points and hidden secrets that no one else has revealed about this machine that's going to make you feel a lot easier in knowing whether or not to buy this machine for yourself for what your needs are. Episode 2, sneak peek, we'll be showcasing all the prints that I've done with it with PLA, PETG, PLA Plus and Pro, plus full interface showcasing of the full software that's integrated into this machine that enables you to have clipper access like fluid and mainsail, remote control access with full 1080p monitoring with those advanced features that come along with it. For those that are beginner or pro, if you're a beginner, you're about to find out and know. If you're a pro, you already know. And also, in part 2, we'll also be including this exclusive little device here, which enables us to print material. That's right, I said it, enables us to print 3D printed material that's magnetic, that holds everything in place. So we'll be doing this for the first time. And episode 3, that's where we're going to push this machine to the breaking point. That's where I'm going to test every filament, time-lapsed and in real time, with every filament I can possibly afford to buy that doesn't break the bank. I'm talking nylon glass fibre, carbon fibre, PLA carbon fibre, PAHT6, PAHT12, glass fibre nylon, ABS plus, ABS carbon fibre, ASA carbon fibre, ABS glass fibre, and so many more. To see if you can live up to the 370 degree nozzle temperature, the 65 degree heating chamber, and the 130 degree Celsius bed heating temperature that I can actually get, as well as all the other features included. So yes, get comfortable because this is going to be a big one. Part 1's now, and part 2 will be in 24 to 48 hours later. As we go through the machine parts, quality, build, components and structure, and what you get in the box and what you have access to in this first episode right now. Alright, so we've got the Qidi Q2, I think that's how you pronounce it. Originally, us Aussies, I actually started pronouncing it Qidi or Qidi, but unfortunately that was stupid of me and I got it incorrect, so yeah. So yes, the Qidi Q2 from QidiTech, got this sent out to me. I was waiting for the full production model rather than the beta model. A lot of other reviewers and influencers out there got the beta unit and the beta Qidi box, which had some temperamental problems, and some of which weren't used to a clipper environment machine. This is in fact a Core XY printer. It is a 270 by 270 by 254 build plate with our standard accelerations of 20,000 millimeters per second and 600 millimeters a second top speed print speed. Now, what do we have inside the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Well, I can tell you a few things. The Z-axis rails, they are 10 millimeter Z-axis rails. There's 3 of them, 2 on the side and 1 on the rear, or should I say, no. We have 2 on the side and 4 10 millimeter lead rods or guide rods on the both sides of the front and back of the actual Core XY system itself. It is guided by a proper linear rail, not a linear rod, which in my opinion is a great concept because, as we know, and I've spoken about this in past videos, the linear rail produces less flex at high speeds, and especially when temperature is a relevant thing, because it actually the X motion, the X motion actually moves across an edged bearing rather than a cylindrical rod. Therefore, you get less flex. So that means more accuracy when you're printing at higher speed, especially at larger models as well. What else have we got? Well, we've got a touchscreen interface. We've got a direct drive extruder unit. Basically, I wouldn't say it's all metal gears. The binding gears that run the filament are metal. The actual gearing themselves, I'd say, would be nylon. Obviously, we have a PDFE tube. This is a very unique printer. Something that I haven't seen before is it is a built-in heating chamber of 65 degrees, which means not only can you preheat the printing chamber, but you can also means you can print higher end industry grade filaments such as PAHT, ABS glass fiber, ASA glass fiber, ASA carbon fiber, PP, PC. What else we got? We've got, obviously all your normal stuff like TPU, 95A, PETG, PLA, PLA Plus, ABS, and so forth. We have a top extruder temperature of 370 degrees Celsius. Now, I have gone ahead. You will see lots of different photos popping all over the place as I talk. And basically, I've gone ahead and pulled this machine apart. Well, I would say 50% because I wanted to see what was inside and what was making this thing tick. So I can, in fact, tell you quite a lot about what is inside this system of this machine. The blower fan is a 5015 blower fan, brushless 24 volt. Very similar to what Bambulab runs in their printers. So that's a good thing. It is a Whirlpool, I'm not sure the brand, and it's a 0.10 amp, 24 volt. It's a DB5015 AH24 24 volt. So basically do that what you will, but in comparisons, it is up to spec with the adequate adequate air volume of cooling and blowing, obviously, of the print itself. So you will get good cooling at high speed. Now, the thing that I was surprised about the most, if we open the door, with the cooling fan itself, it is a underside mounted fan. What does that mean? Well, it means that it draws air from the bottom. Now, why is that unique or weird for me? Well, I'm used to seeing fans that draw air from the front or the rear. Why is it weird seeing it from under the bottom? Well, because generally you have not only from the build plate, but being this is a heated chamber, you generally have warm air being pulled in to the actual extrusion fan that then cools the parts. Why is this sometimes an issue? Well, generally it means that the parts don't cool down quick enough. But then that said, so long as the actual cooling of the auxiliary fan and the flow through area of the rear exhaust fan are adequate, you will then get sufficient airflow coming through. Now, obviously with printing things like PLA, sometimes even PETG, and things like that, PLA Plus, TPU, you will not need to have that heated chamber. You will want as much airflow as you can have. But other materials like ABS, ASA, PLA carbon fiber, PETG carbon fiber, PA12, PA6, nylon. I've got some ASA glass fiber behind me, which I'll be running the test on. So this is part 1 and 2 of a 3-part series where I'll be pushing this machine to its limits. So once again, it can deliver, and I'm going to prove that it can deliver on what it says it can do. So that's what we're going to be doing. So that's why I've gone right into this printer. Now, on the front, you do have a magnetic cover that lifts off, like so. And we have what looks to be 2 5mm magnets that basically are on the bottom of the case and the front cover case and the extruder mount itself. We also have a rear sleeve which attaches to the back, which allows you access to the PCB board, which obviously powers the extrusion unit itself and the extruder. It does actually have its own cooling fan there, and it looks like there's a spare pin for another fan system, I believe. I'll have to check that in a second. It's actually quite accessible. To access the blower fan as well, to clean it out, is 5 screws, and the side fan that's also for the heatsink cooling fan for the extruder is also a brushless 24 volt 0.6 amp fan. Same branding and company as well, and brushed. So cooling for the heatsink and the extruder is adequate and up to par with the latest machines that are being developed today, alongside the bambulab machines as well. Have they copied bambulab? No, the setup is different. The heatsink itself is different, and also well, I suppose nowadays a lot of people are going with what Creality used to call the unicorn hot end. Basically, it's an all-inclusive hot end that runs straight through from the bottom of the end of where the nozzle would sit, all the way through the heatsink, past the actual heating core, and all the way to the extruder, so that you get less heat creep and less chance of the filament itself not heating, I suppose, equally as it passes down through the chamber of the nozzle, and thus creating less nozzle jams and blockages, which is a good thing. Now, apart from that, the extruder itself, I have noticed lately with a lot of printers that the extruders, please, companies, all the 3D printing companies out there, please take this advice, okay? Please. You may look at me and think I'm a YouTuber. Well, I spent many years mechanically engineering, working on gear systems and hydraulics that I would basically just call this Meccano. That's how I look at it. I've seen extruders from other printers that I have behind me and beside me that, to be honest, I wouldn't buy for 50 cents. Why do I say that? Because the extrusion gears and the mechanisms inside them are flimsy at best and have micro texture parts that wouldn't be in my 10-year-old daughter's toys. So please, please do what Qidi has done, please, moving forward. And what, say, I will give credit where credit's due, where Creality have done as well, and that is have direct drive gears. Okay, yes, we need our filament cutters and so forth, but let's stick to direct drive single movement gears with a third wheel gear, if we have to, a cam wheel, that then runs directly onto the motor. That's what makes it a direct drive gear. The reason why that's important, well, we get direct drive, which means we get direct gears connecting. We don't rely on springs and tension so much, and we don't rely on smaller plastic components and springs and platelets that have to then be used to tension to push the actual gear drives together. Plus, also, please continue to make the gears all metal. That's mostly important. If we can move to at least alloy or steel, stainless, that will be even better. Okay, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Manufacturers, please. Qidi, congratulations. The extruder on this is very well made. Guys, if you're looking for a machine that's got a good extruder that's going to handle all the different types of abrasive filaments and not jam up, this is the one. Right, moving forward from that, as far as the build volume is concerned, like I said before, it's 270 by 270 by, 254, I believe it is, 256. Now, it does have a build plate volume that actually is 280 by 280, although if you do run the Qidi box multicolor unit, you will find that you won't be able to access the full volume of that. I tried and I was wondering, why is it that I can't fit this model on this build plate? Something's going on. It's telling me I'm within the matrix volume mesh of the build plate, and it wouldn't print. Kept saying you're out of bounds, you're out of this, you're out of the printable area. So therefore, to enable that, you can enable that and make the build volume larger to the full capacity of, I think, 279 or 278, but to do that you cannot run the multicolor Qidi box and with the filament cutter as well and the rear chute, because it needs that space for the mechanism itself to actually hit the trigger points to enable it to cut the filament, prime and poop. So that's why it's limited in its build volume. So yes, it does say 270 by 270 by 256. The build plate does say 280 by 280, but we are limited, and that's just how it is. It's just part of the game. Obviously, with Core XY printers, we sacrifice something in order to get faster speed and better quality and less vibration and more accuracy over a Cartesian or bed slinger. Is what it is. As far as the bed volume itself and the build plate, the build volume and build quality, it's an all steel metal plate, unlike some other manufacturers that have gone with a plastic injection molded build plate with an alloy frame that's to support it underneath with a very thin aluminium build plate and magnetic bed. Excuse me. This does actually have a proper, I think it's 5 or 6 mil, I think 6 millimeter aluminium bed build plate. That's also it's capsulated in a injection molded housing, but is also braced within a cold steel or pressed steel full frame. That is very important. It does also include the ability to use the pressure sensor and build plate sensor within the nozzle and the build plate to make sure that the actual configuration of your bed mesh is absolutely spot on. I have ran this machine now for 2 weeks straight. I also used it for a festival. Those of you who watched the video I just posted the other day about a festival I went to, ended up pouring down rain on me, which was another story. But that said, I printed some really cool stuff, which I'll show you on the next video, including the engineering filament that I'll be doing and testing, and you'll see video time-lapse of that. That basically did not need any adjustment on the Z offset at all. So absolute zero. I had no issues with the build volume. The first layer was perfect. Didn't have to adjust the Z offset, didn't have to adjust the flow rate, didn't have to do a thing. All I did was set it up, wipe the plate with alcohol, go through the calibrations, and that's it. One thing I didn't even do, which I'll have to admit, was the first time I actually did it, I was so excited about how well this was printing, I didn't even go to the slicer and do the standard calibrations, which is your flow rate, usually your minimum 2-pass flow rate, your filament flow rate, testing, your pressure advance testing, and if you want to do your string testing and so on. I didn't do any of those testing at all, not even temperature testing, nothing. I literally just loaded the slicer up, started printing, and didn't even think, because I printed a first layer print. It was flawless. I looked at the quality and the way it was laying the layers down, and I thought, great. Just kept loading it up, and it was printing flawless prints. So you'll see those prints in the next video, as today is all about the mechanics and the machine itself. Now, saying that, what are the positives and the negatives? Well, with the positives, what you get in the box is you get a small sample of repeato filament. They do include a Ethernet LAN cable if you want to use that. Wi-Fi connectivity is actually very, very good. It uses a clipper system, which is probably one of the most important things in this printer itself. So therefore it's I wouldn't say full open source, but it's a semi-open source system that runs off, can run off Orca Slicer, but it currently runs off Qidi Slicer or Orca, Qidi Orca Slicer, or Qidi Orca, however you want to call it, or Qidi Slicer. It is an Orca Slicer variant. There's 2 big things that are in this machine that also make it more beneficial as well. Is 2 things. Is it has resonance avoidance advanced technology built into the slicer itself, so you can go through that testing procedure and you can analyze the prints through different speed testing, and you can see where the VFA is coming from, if there is VFA. Now, why do I say if there's VFA? Because this machine is now utilizing 1.5 gauge tooth belts and not 2 gauge belts. Why is that a big difference? Well, when you have a bigger diameter belt tooth space, you have more chance for slippage at higher speed and more chance for the tooth on the actual lineal bearing, which is the bearing or pulley that doesn't have tooth, to slip. At high speed, that does happen, and you have movement between the gears. That movement between the gears is what causes those ripple effects within the printer. A lot of people don't realize that, and that's why it happens. So Qidi have solved that. Well, to a certain degree. I've got some prints behind me that I ran at 300 to 400 milliseconds out of wall speed, and no VFA at all, nothing. And that was before I even calibrated. And then I thought, there was one time where I had some heat temperature ones where it was the heat had changed at a certain height of the print, and I noticed some imperfections there. Went straight to the slicer, and I was like, oh, hang on, hadn't even calibrated it. Once I went through the whole calibration process, it took me about an hour and a half, it was gone. No VFA, no heat changing spectrum, no blobs, no under extrusion, no nothing. Layering was perfect, brims came off like butter, not a hassle at all. So far, my recommendation, just going through what I've said already, this is probably the best printer I've used in 2025. I'm not blowing a trumpet. Qidi have sent me this printer with absolutely no guidelines. I approached Qidi and said, hey, is there any chance I can get one of these models printed out, sent it out to me? the good people at Qidi turned around and said, look, to be honest, we have looked at your channel, and yes, we could send you one, but the units we've been sent out are the beta testing units. And I said straight away, I don't want one of those. I don't want to have to deal with having a review of a system that's not complete. Having a full understanding of Clipper as well. So I waited, and that's why you've seen these reviews for the Qidi Q2 upwards of 4 months ago, because basically they were pre-production models, just like the Qidi box as well, even before they landed in the States, in America. They were beta test models, and that's why you'll see in those reviews they had problems with them as well. So I didn't want to go through that process, and I don't believe in testing a unit until it's fully developed, because that's just defeating the purpose. And to be perfectly honest, I know the company wants to get the brand out there, they want to get the brand of their product out there, but at the same time, it tarnishes the brand and also tarnishes the actual testing and quality of the product. So I waited for a full production model, and yes, it arrived. I will have the Qidi box within the next probably 10 to 14 days. It's on its way, so I've been told. That's great. As far as everything else is concerned, what else can we talk about? Well, here we go. Power usage. Now, this is interesting. It does only have a 350 watt power supply. Now, it's actually been interesting because a lot of the common ones, as well as the Cobra S1 from Anycubic, also had a 350 watt power supply, but it does also have a, pretty sure it's a 280, sorry, so there you go. So there's a 350 watt power supply, and that is for the actual full running of the heated bed and the extruder itself and the hot end, and then you have a 280 watt chamber heating system. How hot does it get? It gets hot fast. Basically, it gets hot that quickly that I could use this as a heater. I'm in the bottom of Australia, down in Melbourne. It gets cold some nights, even in summer. And having this on while sitting at my desk doing some designing and other things, when I've got this running with the heater chamber on, even with the glass lid on, it warms the room. It gets quite warm. Now, safety-wise, it has at the back, which I'll see photos popping up right now, it has a inlet cooling, I would say, 20 millimeter fan inlet, brushless fan, and it also has a triple filtration. It has a 25 by 75 millimeter fan. That's for the exhaust, which also has a 3-in-1. It's a HEPA, carbon, and a particle filter. So therefore, you do not get VO2 gases. You do not get particle, vapor, or dust from the extraction of the fumes from extruding and printing with industrial materials that are outside of PLA. That said, even if you are using PLA, you should be in a ventilated room. When I'm printing, I do spend a lot of time in my office, and I have a rack beside me with my most, probably the newest and the printers I prefer to use the most in the room printing with me, but I also have a full reverse cycle air conditioning system, fan, and a full roll of sliding door and window, so I have constant continuous airflow. Very important, guys, remember that. Do not print industrial materials in an enclosed room. You'll end up sick. Not good for you at all. So moving on from that, the chamber is a 65-degree chamber capacity, so you can actually stick a roll of filament in the bottom of the print box or unit itself whilst you're printing a model, as long as it doesn't go down to the level of the height that it needs to print and then crush the bottom of your filament, which wouldn't be good. The other thing as well is the chamber heating itself for filament drying, because what this unit actually does, outside of the Qidi box, which is also a heating multicolor filament chamber heating device which heats up to 60 degrees, is the internal chamber of the heating itself on the system has a filament system drying capability. So inside the Qidi 2, you can actually use the internal printer itself as a filament dryer. Just by selecting what's on screen, you go to filament, tools, it comes up just as in it, at where the bed leveling is, pressure advance, input shaping section, and so on. There's filament drying section. You can press that button. It'll ask you to select what type of filament it is and to make sure that the bed volume is clear of any objects and so on. Put the glass lid on, which I'll talk about in a moment, which is quite cool. and you will be able to, it'll automatically select the temperature for you and goes up to 90 degrees Celsius. Now 90 degrees Celsius does allow you to print a lot of different materials. In fact, we have glass fiber, reinforced glass fiber, nylon, polymer, PC, carbon fiber, ASA, PG, ABS, glass fiber, nylon, PA12, PA6, and so on and so on. So you do get a lot of abilities to not only use this to dry the filament, because I know I've got a lot of filament dryer boxes under this bench here, and the highest one that I've got goes to 75 degrees. Now if I want to print in engineering grade filament, even 75 degrees drying time is not going to be enough. For any type of nylon filament or glass fiber filament, you need to heat it at least 90 degrees Celsius for at least 12 hours. So that's very important to remember. This printer can do it as well. Now moving on from that, I'm going to bring over something that I think is pretty cool. What QidiTech have done is they built a glass sliding lid system, which is right here. Now, with this glass sliding lid, people think, oh, glass, oh, remember the days of shattered glass and tempered glass and heat-proof glass? Well, they've done this because the glass itself being tempered can withstand heat, and obviously plastic, even high-end plastic, can have a bit of flex in it, even if it doesn't warp. Here. So what they've done is they've made it a slidable roof lid with these locking tabs, which you'll see in a moment. The picture will be on the screen. And you simply can turn them 90 degrees and then slide this back. And the actual top frame of the actual printer itself is notched along with the glass. As you will see, if I tilt that up, you'll see it's notched there, it has a notch there, and that literally locks in place when you slide it back and won't go back any further. And by simply flicking those tabs across at 90 degrees, you can now have that in position like that if you like. You can have it ventilated so you can print PLA if you want to. If you're in a cold environment where it's too cold and you're already getting enough airflow, you can have it like that as well. You can also print PETG as well with it and have it, if you need some air, you can slightly close it so it is adjustable. So that is a really good thing as well. Other things as well, apart from the machine, I forgot to mention, is also you get a very nice quality scraper that comes with it, very good. And also you get, for the first time ever, I've actually seen a company, deliver a proper screwdriver. How's that? You don't think of these things very much, but it's a small screwdriver, but compared to other screwdrivers that I've received from other companies, like that, and even smaller, we have this, which even has a magnetic tip on it. So there you go. Well done, Qidi. Good work. Even the accessories they deliver on are quite good as well. So pretty happy with that. The actual Allen keys they give you are also anodized, which I think is good, rather than having them just basically stainless or zinc coated, which end up scratching and cracking. You do also get a 8GB USB and also this metal plate, which got me a little bit confused, I would say. I couldn't work out what it was. And it's actually, as far as I know, from what I can think of and what I'm aware of, it doesn't actually show it in the manual, but it's actually a poop chute filament a slot plate. So for whatever reason, that's there as a spare. And also inside where the Allen keys are, you also get, which you don't normally get with other printers, we've got ourselves a fuse for the main board, and we've got a spare filament extruder wiper cleaner, as well as a spare filament cutter. So those things, especially the filament cutter and fuses and things like that, you don't normally get. So well done to Qidi for that. They've given us the extra things we actually do need, and not just do need, but make sure they're of good quality too. So that's pretty good. Now, I seem to be talking a lot of positives. Now, why is that? Well, to be honest, the machine itself does have a lot of positives. Like I said, I've been printing a lot of different materials, and you know, I've tried out the ABSA Rapido, the Ultra PAA. I've got many other brands as well, you know, from everything from Polymaker to Overture to GTech, which I work with as well. They help me out a lot. And GTech, as well as FlashForge. I can't even think of all the brands. They're all on the tool spool racks, on my trolleys and everywhere else. You know, from Creality to, you know, all these other filaments. Basically, it'll run everything else. What handy thing that comes with the USB stick or on board on the driver itself is this little printable spool expansion. So on the side of I'll take it off so you can see it better. You get this module here, which comes in the box. has a screw cap on the side that comes off and a 360-degree pivotal PTFE tube insert with a coned insert there, which makes it easy to feed your filament inside, especially whilst you're on single colour and if you don't have the Qidi box. Now with that, what you can do is, so that the spool isn't flopping around, you then put this inside the spool, slide your spool on, spool sits there, and lock it in position. Whoop, lock it in position, that just slipped out. It's not supposed to, because it's supposed to be on the actual wall. And it goes like that. Then it slots on the back, like so. And if you can see that, if I close the door, should be able to see that there. So I'm moving that there. You'll see that there. So they also include printable artifacts or G-code files on the screen that are built in to help you recalibrate the bed if you ever need to, which is also handy as well. Now, what I love about this system is when you do get access to it, is not only, you don't have to configure a thing. So basically, you just go to the IP address that is on your network. So when you log into your Wi-Fi, you go to the network option, it gives you your IP address. You basically put that IP address, you can manually put that IP address into your web browser outside of the Qidi slicer, and it will bring up Fluid or Mainsail, I'm not sure which one. After you've done that and you've got full access to the actual full Clipper Mainsail system, you can then activate your Fluid account. So if you're on that screen, on that web interface, you can register your email and a name. Once you've done that, the machine will pick that up and see you've registered a Fluid account. You can then go into Fluid, click Fluid, press your name, and it will save and log your account. It doesn't save any of the information you print or what you do. It's just part of the open source Clipper software. It's obviously locked as far as your web interface is concerned via the online printing user interface that's separate from the slicer itself. Now, with that said, if you do have issues connecting, there is 2 server login options you can run through, which is on the screen as well, and they have 2 separate server algorithms that you can go through for different portals. So that's handy as well. The motherboard fan and chamber fan is a closed loop control. The chamber temperature is up to 60 degrees, which is a 2nd gen. It does have filament clog detection, which is handy to see as well. The load sensor is integrated into the hot end. So therefore, instead of the load sensor being integrated into the bed and the bed having to press into the bed for the bed sensor to feel the pressure of the nozzle, and sometimes that isn't very accurate because the density of the bed can affect the pressure that it gets from the nozzle pressing down. And also if the bed's not level, that also affects it as well. So being that the pressure sensor is built into the nozzle, that also, having the bed reinforced, that also makes it so that is probably why, and I would say is why, I didn't have to run any calibrations when I ran this machine, because it basically just ran a perfect first layer straight away. So, like I said, I'm not going to do printing today. This is all about the nuts and bolts of the machine, so that when you decide to buy the Qidi 2, or even if you decide to buy the Qidi 2 or Qidi 2 Max or Qidi Max 4, which is the Qidi 2 bigger brother, which is coming out very, very soon from QidiTech, which I'm very excited about as well, it's going to run the same configurations and systems that the Qidi 2 does as well. So that's really good to know that if you are going to get a Qidi 2 or you're looking at getting the Max 4, from QidiTech as well, that the Max 4 is going to be just as reliable as the Qidi 2, obviously with some little extra bonus add-on features and maybe some upgrades, and also the features that the Qidi 2 has, which is, in my opinion, fantastic. You also do have a 1080p camera. It could do with a little bit more LED lighting in there. I think there's a port that you can actually access to add an LED light, but the light is off-centered, and they've done that so that the light shines directly in front, offset to the camera, so that basically the 1080p camera can actually pick up the actual print in the right lighting, so that it's not continuously in a shadow, which we have seen a lot of from other prints and time lapses before. So that's there as well. One thing I wanted to show you, which is quite interesting, which I'll then pan around to a different camera and we'll have a look at, is I'm actually going to show you something that I don't think anyone's really done before, and that is how much power does this machine use? At the end of the day, we all have 3D printers, but what's it costing you on your power bill? So I've got a way to do that and test it, and we're going to have a look at it in a minute. It'll also run through Orca Slicer and Prusa Slicer as well on top of the Qidi Studio. So that's good to know. Is it does actually have a 32 gig eMMC storage inside it, which is unique because most manufacturers will only give you an 8 or at most 16. So having a 32 gig onboard storage means you're not having to constantly delete files off the memory, off the printer. So you can come back 6 months later and reprint the same product because you haven't had to delete it or offload it to a USB because it's still on the memory drive because you've got 32 gig. So that is a good improvement as well. QidiTech has done a good job by expanding the memory for that as well. So that's really good. The AI detection, I would say in comparison to other brands like Elegoo, Anycubic, Creality, Bamboo, I would say so far pretty good. The QidiTech I can have on medium, and so far it actually picks up small fragmentations of filament that haven't laid down or have pulled up, say for instance on a second or third layer. If your adhesion to the bed isn't that great, so it's actually doing an accurate job there. So I would probably give it a good 70-80% as far as the detection ratio. Compared to the other ones, I would probably give 20-30%. So do with that what you will, but its AI detection is pretty good. The firmware is outstanding. The touchscreen, its interface, it feels good. It flows well. It's pivotal as well. So you've got full up and down tilt, which is handy if you've got it on a storage rack and it's down the bottom and you need to tilt up to look and see, or if it's up the top or in front of you, you can still see it as well. Is it has a coconut shell with a H12 HEPA filter filled with activated carbon and a G3 pre-filter 3-in-1 combo. So VO2, particle and carbon. So that's really handy to know. They're the specs on that. And it meets the standard as well for MET standard as well, which is really good to know. So it actually meets a criterial standard for air pollution or air toxicity, which they've gone out of their way to make sure that that does that. So that's quite good to know. The hot end is also ceramically heated as well, so it doesn't have an alloy heat block. It runs off a ceramic plate, and the ceramic plate is quite large. I know a lot of some of the other nozzles that you get aftermarket that you upgrade from the block style extruders to a ceramic hot end, they're quite small. This is quite large. If you compare that to, say, a Cobra S1, or other machines that have got that don't have a full wraparound 360 degree ceramic core, they have the flat ceramic pad. This is probably 3 times the size of those, so that's really good as well because you get faster heating, consistent heating as well, and you get consistent heat all the way around the actual heat sink through to the nozzle, which means less clogs as well. And also that you can get 0.2, 0.6 and 0.8 nozzles, which are optional. You don't get a spare nozzle. That's probably the only thing I wish they did put, was maybe a small nozzle just in case you got stuck. Fortunately for me, I know how to clean nozzles. I've had some really bad nozzles that have completely almost destroyed themselves, and using a Dremel or drills and so on and buffs, I've brought them back to brand new. Not everyone can do that, so that's probably the only thing I could pick at. The rear point does have access to the guide belts, the pulley belts. They are tensionable from the rear, which is handy. You don't have to reach inside and adjust them. So that's also an added benefit as well. Lineal bearings as well, rather than a dry collar or a dry bearing, which is good to see as well. So that means less maintenance and less scoring on your linear rods. So that's really good to see. And the Z-axis rods come with a ton of grease, so you don't have to worry about that at all. So outside of that, I've pretty much covered everything we need to cover. Like I said, everything else, all the different types of fans, the core temperature, the nozzle's 370, the bed can go up to 120 degrees, just recap, nozzle's 370, it's got a heating chamber of 60 degrees and 65 degrees, and it can also dry filament up to 90 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, and the Qidi box, if you get that as well, that'll heat your filament up to around 60, 65 degrees as well. 32 gigabyte memory built in, 4.3 inch touchscreen, and a 1080p camera, multi-slicer compatible, full clipper system. Come on, seriously. Have I not just gone over more things than any other person has reviewed on this printer? Please tell me if I haven't, because it's about time we got back to the old school reviews and covered what we need to cover and what we need to know, because most of us that have got 3D printers now, or even if you're buying a new one, you'll know after watching this video that every spec that I've gone through is good quality. And if you've been around in the industry for a while now, you'll also know that every spec that I've said is good quality and good build quality and reliable. So that's handy to know as well. The last thing I would say was with the glass top, before I move on to testing the power usage and showing you through the screen option menu, is they have recessed the cable chain for the power unit to the extruder, and they've linked the PDFE tube railing on the clip of the chain to the bottom section so that it doesn't rub on the glass as much. There is a riser that already comes factory standard built in to not only the USB, but also you can download it from their wiki page. There's a whole heap of features, optional features you can download from their wiki page, as well as not just what's on the screen, which is the rise that you can print straight away, straight from the menu, but also optional risers, poop chutes for the rear as well. I think there's 3 different ones they have, and obviously people are already creating them online as well through Thingiverse and printables and so on. So that's that. So far I've talked about every positive about this machine. Have I found a negative? I did find one. One negative I found about this machine, well I could say 2 technically. 2 is wiping down glass and keeping glass clean is a pain in the butt. But, you know, that's just me. I hate seeing dust all over everything, so you'll be forever wiping the glass. 2, there is one thing that I will say that could have been done a little bit better, and that is the footing, which I will put a photo up here. The footing, the 4 footing stops for the footing for the base of the machine. I'm not sure of the material, but based on the fact that the machine heats up as well on the bottom, and the actual bottom unit, which I'll put a photo here as well, you'll notice the actual heating, the actual power unit for the actual printer itself, outside of the power unit for the heating part of the chamber for the heater blower fan, which is internal, it is exposed. So, and then the actual connection points are covered by a metal plate that's insulated, which is fine. But the problem with that is that it does tend to generate a bit of heat from the bottom. And so far what I've noticed just from the test bench anyway, which is just, you know, matte wood, timber, is that it is leaving black circular marks on the bench. So that said, the first thing I will probably do is print some foot plates, or get some actual footing plates for it, either mounted at a TPU. I have seen some on the internet that people have already made. I think there might be some that you can get and make that's on the Qidi site. Not quite sure, I have to verify that. But that is definitely something that you want to approve. That's the only thing I can knock about this printer so far. That's it. If you've liked the content so far, you like the difference in the way I reviewed this printer today and gone in depth, more in detail about the parts and the quality of the components, that's helped you make a better informed decision than other reviews out there that generally only go for between 10 and 20 minutes at most, which in my opinion is very poor. As a 3D professional, I regard myself for coming from a mechanical engineering background. I pride myself on honesty, integrity, and giving you guys the information that you need to give you the best value for money that you can buy. That being said, I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen and look forward to producing episode 2 and 3 to make sure we can test this machine to see it lives up to expectation. And if you've enjoyed the content, like and subscribe. I truly appreciate everyone who does that. Comment if you want something put in, comment if you disagree, comment if you don't agree, if you do agree, and also comment if you'd like me to add anything further in the video moving ahead. I'm happy to receive constructive criticism, and yeah, so that's fine with me. I'm an Aussie, we just wear it on the chin, have our hearts on our sleeves, and we just rock on with it. We don't really care. So if you like what you're seeing today, like, subscribe, or don't, comment if you want to below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.